Hello and welcome back to Finovate TV, live from Finovate Fall, Day 4. I'm delighted to be joined by Scott Thompson, CEO of Tuition.io. Welcome.
How are you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
So Scott, you have an impressive CV and experience of working across the tech sector. What drew you to Tuition.io?
Wow.
Easy question for you.
Actually, it was a fairly easy decision. You know, when you kind of take a step back and you say, what are some of the big problems that you can solve today going forward for people, either in this country or around the world? It turns out that this student loan debt problem here in the United States, and by the way, in some other markets outside the US, is a really big problem. And the people that have the debt have a lot of it, and they're living differently than previous generations have because of that debt burden. And you know, when I began to understand that this could be an employee benefit driven by the employer to dramatically aid in reducing student debt faster than you might otherwise be able to do on your own, I said, what a fantastic mission to sign up for. Win, win, win from every perspective. And you know, if you want to do something meaningful, you find a company that has that type of mission and then you get after it full force. And clearly Tuition.io has that type of mission. We're doing really good things in the market.
Yeah, well it certainly is. The scale of the problem is massive. And sort of given the scale and the challenge, do you think that fintech innovators can really deliver some solutions that will have impact across large numbers?
Yes. I 100% believe that that will be the case, that there will be, you know, startup companies like ours, disruptive companies, including us, that will innovate in this space and will help solve the problem. There's other things that have to happen, of course, because $1.4 trillion in debt in the US is a big number. The cost of education continues to go up year after year after year. More and more young people need this type of financial support to go to college to get the education that they need. So the macro factors are all driving this to be a bigger problem as we look forward. But companies like us working with these employers realize this is something that has to be solved for their workforce. So I do believe it'll happen.
And also it's really, I was reading recently around the impact of student debt, not just on the young, but on sort of older people, that it's not something that is just affecting the young. Do you think that the kind of solutions that you're bringing to market can help those older borrowers as well?
Right. So our product is based on helping the consumer, helping the employee with any type of loan that they have. Federal, private, parent, graduate, we allow all of those loan types on our platform and support them all. We consciously built it to be that way. You're absolutely right. One of the untold stories about student loan debt in this country is the growing population of people that are a little bit older that have taken on debt for their children. And unexpectedly, in a lot of cases, taken on meaningful debt for their children. And what happens to them? What do they do next? How do they respond to having this unexpected debt burden, you know, pretty late in their career? And so I don't have a strong position with employers in terms of how they should look at this issue in addition to millennial debt. But it is a different problem, but it is a serious problem that you know, both the consumer and the employee, you know, need to face up against and think about going forward.
And again, sort of given the scale of the challenge, it's not just financial services, innovators, or corporations that can deliver a solution, but looking at the kind of broader policy environment, what changes would you like to see?
Yeah. Wow, that's a loaded question. You know, I think as it relates to proposed legislation in Washington, D.C., you know, there are a couple of pieces of legislation that have been proposed. We're supportive of enacting that change to the tax code and making the contribution pre-tax for both the employee and the employer. I don't think it's necessary for this industry to be successful, but it is you know, an accelerant to adoption for employers if this type of employee benefit were treated like others from a tax perspective, like 401k is from a tax perspective, because then it wouldn't attract payroll tax, you wouldn't have that additional cost, and you could get around to funding the program that much sooner. So I hope the legislation that's being proposed does get enacted. As I said, I don't think it's necessary for the industry to be successful, but it is necessary for it to go faster than it's currently going.
Well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure speaking to you, and I look forward to your session later today at Finovate, which will be discussing this issue in more detail. So thanks again from Finovate Fall 2017.